Hey guys, how's it going? With the recent addition of Draco Nero into the game as a playable beast class character, the community has been in a bit of a theory crafting buzz over who can actually get in on this class. There are certain rules in place that permit being a beast class character, but in theory we can only ever have 14 members. However, given that this is fate that we are dealing with, the likelihood of us summoning a beast candidate in the beast class is far more likely than the idea of summoning actual beasts. So that also opens the door to many potential candidates that we may be able to get. With that in mind, let's take a look into who is capable of being summoned as a beast class character. Partial Lost Belt 7 spoilers ahead. At present, we do have a list of beasts available that may get repurposed or resummoned with the Beast Saint graph, but theory crafting with the obvious is no fun, so I'll just list them here. The current roster of known beasts are Geisha, Tiamat, Kiara, Kamamara, Draco Nero, Foe, Kamazots, Babylon, Kokenia, Tomamovich, Daji, and you Olga, meaning that on a technicality we should only have 2 more potential beasts that arrive. I'm going to say up front that Vich and Daji are not the same, with Vich being the beast of cherishment and Daji being the beast of collapse. To even qualify to be a beast, you must hold within your heart a deep love for humanity despite the actions that you perform. A beast does not harm humanity out of malice, but rather in a way that can be seen as being overprotective. They wish to help humanity so much that their morality is twisted towards that end. A good example of this is that Kama wants humanity to flourish and indulge itself in its desires, but this happens to come at the detriment of everything else and would cause humanity to collapse in the process, making her incredibly dangerous. Beasts are, by their nature, the extremes of humanity, the what-if scenarios made manifest if we were to march down a very specific path. If you want my own opinion on which of the listed characters above is going to be playable sooner than later, then here you go. We are very likely to get either Olga or Kamazots at some point this year, with one of them very likely being the anniversary servant. Alternatively, it is very possible that we are going to get one as a welfare at some point in the future. I would bank on it being Kamazots because despite having one of the best designs in FGO, he quite literally is a 2-paragraph description in a legend and nothing more. It's a wonder how he even qualifies as a beast to begin with, so without very much backing him in terms of legend, he would make the most sense of those listed to be an eventual welfare. Alternatively, he could be a 4-star added to the gacha pool like Faker was for the Pretenders. Olga, on the other hand, is very story relevant, so getting a Seraph-like chapter with her in an event and then getting her would make the most sense. I have been memeing that we will get Shota Geisha for a long time now, so when that happens, come back to this video and post that. I think if we see a summonable Tamamo beast, it will appear in the form of a Matarasu. I don't know under what circumstances that would even become a possibility, but Christ almighty, I would love for more Tamamos. Finally, I see the potential in Foe making a combat appearance in the story, but not being summonable until a few years down the road for a New Year's or anniversary. Foe is stated to be a male in-game and will 100% become anthropomorphized, probably as a sassy Shota in a suit. Imagine if Anderson and Polly from Nikke had a teleporter accident, and that's about how I would see it in my mind. If you think this Shota thing is a weird thing to bring up not once but twice, remember that every beast in Chaldea, beast class or otherwise, either starts off in a child form or has a child form, so I'm just playing the game with the information that we have. But enough about who we know are beasts. Let's get to the theory crafting. At present, we are aware of the attribute of one of the remaining beasts, the Beast of Shame. I don't plan on building a whole video around just trying to identify who the Beast of Shame is yet, but I'll throw my 2 cents in. My current picks for it are Eve, Lilith, and Izanami. I think of these, Eve is the most obvious choice given that she is the one who invented shame according to Christianity. After being tricked by the serpent to partake in the fruit of the tree of knowledge and sharing it with her husband Adam, the originators of humanity suddenly felt ashamed of appearing naked before the eyes of God. Thus, they hid away and attempted to cover themselves as to hide their nudity from the Lord. When God asked them to come forth and explain why they were hiding, Adam blamed Eve for giving him the fruit, Eve then blamed the serpent for telling her to do it, and the serpent blamed no one because snakes can't talk unless they are lying. Thus, God took away the serpent's limb so that it would crawl around on its belly for all eternity. Eve was given 2 punishments, or 3 depending on what version of the Bible that you're reading. The pains of menstruation, the pains of childbirth, and that women are to be subservient to men. To Adam he gave the punishment of men needing to work hard labor for the entirety of their lives. Finally, to all of humanity he gave the gift of death, so that none will be around forever. Eve herself is the mother of all of humanity, and from what we can gather from the Bible, does love humanity. However, if you were to twist this on its head in the way of making a beast, you simply need to make her lament the torment that she has cast upon her beloved children. If you view her as a character that actively attempts to take away the effects that the Fruit of Knowledge had, she can be viewed as a danger to progress, as, for all of its damages, the Fruit of Knowledge allows us to be be human. So, while she may view what she is doing as right, essentially to return us to the free will lacking robots that we were prior, it is a direct danger to modern humanity. Moving from Christian myth to Jewish myth, Lilith was Adam's first wife, made on the same day and from the same clay as Adam himself. However, she refused to be subservient to Adam and as such left the Garden of Eden on her own and refused to return. She then met up with the archangel Samael and became a couple. She then became the mother of demons and her offspring proliferated around the earth. While this is not explicitly mentioned in her own story, the Nephilim, a race of giants with the most famous being Goliath, are said to be the product of angels and human women. As such, tall people are demons. As to why she should be a representative of shame, I think it actually goes in the opposite direction. Given that she did not partake in the apple of knowledge, she should theoretically lack shame. As a result, she may view her current situation as the ideal one with no understanding as to why humans act the way that they do. While she may not have liked Adam, it's possible that her overall feelings towards humanity are positive, and that she wants to grant us what she has, and as such wants to remove our feelings of shame so that we can join her. Much like with Eve, this would have dire consequences as it would cease all progress in humanity or lead us to return to a more bestial path. Finally, we have Izanami, who realistically is the most likely to actually get implemented. Before continuing, yes, I know that she is previously summoned in Fate Requiem. A beast having a normal saint graph is far from unusual if I'm reading the current roster correctly. Izanami was one of the two creator deities of Japan along with Izanagi. They were tasked with creating land and took the divine sphere, Ame no Hoko, and churned up the sea. They then built a pillar on it because they wished to be married. They each walked to the opposite side, and when they met, Izanami spoke first. This was thought to be improper by the other gods that were present, but they coupled regardless. They then gave birth to two children who were ugly enough to not be gods, one of which is on beer cans all throughout Japan, and then put into a boat and floated them out to sea. They tried again with Izanagi speaking first, and the pairing was more successful, creating the 6 islands of Japan and a multitude of gods. This ended when the fire god was born and scorched Izanami so badly that she died. Wishing to see his wife again, Izanagi went to the underworld to bring her back. He eventually found her in the darkness and she begged him not to look at her. She explained that she had eaten the food of the underworld and thus could not return. Impatient with his wife, Izanagi started a fire to see her face against her will and found that she'd become a rotting corpse with insects crawling about her. He then screamed and ran away. So ashamed was she of her own appearance that Izanami ordered hordes of monsters to capture him and gave chase herself. Izanagi escaped and sealed the underworld off with an impenetrable boulder. From behind it, Izanami declared that she would kill 1,000 residents of the living every single day, to which Izanagi replied that he would create 1,500 a day then. The shame of being seen when asked not to, paired with her mother goddess-like abilities, make her a prime beast candidate. The one preventative factor here would be that it's hard to say if she has any love for humanity or not. In a way, it can be argued that she is calling humanity to prevent overpopulation, and while death is often seen as a bad thing, it is also a necessity. Thus, she may instead be acting on her own shame as opposed to spreading or removing shame as discussed with the others. Let's now move on to some more abstract beasts of humanity. Figures in history and myths who are the embodiments of potential disaster but do harbor some form of love for humanity. Let's start with a Greek creature of calamity, Echidna. If you will remember, Echidna does make a brief appearance in FGO as a story point but not really manifest beyond that. Echidna is strikingly similar to an already existing beast, Tiamat, both being mother deities that spawned monsters and demons. The difference being that Tiamat was a creator god while Echidna is more akin to a force of nature. I'm not getting into the lineage of how she came to be because scholars cannot agree on which one is the correct one, but know that she was a pre-Olympian god creation, most likely being the daughter of Keto, the primordial sea goddess. Echidna herself was said to have the form of a beautiful woman with striking eyes. From the waist down, she was a monstrous serpent and she had a penchant for eating meat. The tales of Echidna are somewhat ambiguous because she has very few legends attached to her. She is much more well known for her significantly more famous offspring: Cerberus, the Hydra, the Chimera, the Sphinx, Scylla, and even in some instances, Medusa. Her role in myth seems to have been limited to being a mother of monsters. Her usual mate was an equally monstrous creature called Typhoon, whose strength was said to rival that of Zeus. Despite all of this, it is difficult to label her as evil or with a hatred towards humanity. More than anything, she just seems to be feral and views humans as prey, her offspring usually sharing a similar disposition. To prevent Echidna from eating people, the gods gave her a proper job beneath the earth. She lived in a cave where her job was to guard Arima. Where Arima is hotly debated by scholars, placing the cave in an area of anywhere between Turkey and Syria. Regardless, she stayed in this cave, occasionally giving birth to monsters and guarding Arima. That is, until she began eating passers-by as one is wont to do. Due to this transgression, Argus Panoptes was dispatched to kill her, which he did. Echidna, to me, makes sense as fulfilling the same bestial role that Tiamat held. While she is definitely able to be seen as an antagonist, for the most part her role in myth is simply as a mother. It could be argued that she does have a love for humanity if you take into account that some of her own children were semi-divine humans, like Scylla and Medusa, who both became monsters later on. But that is somewhat up in the air. She certainly would make for a cataclysmic threat if left alone, so I would say that she has a shot at being a beast. While it may seem as though her lore lacks any concrete evidence that she held any love for humanity, the same could be said for an existing beast in FGO, the Cath Palug, who, if anything, just views humans as fools and possible food sources in the lore. Sticking with the Greek theme, another good candidate could potentially be the Titan Prometheus. Prometheus is a member of the long line of mythological figures who gifts humanity with fire. However, given the fact that Titan Moon has a hard-on for all things Greek to rival Zeus himself, I think that seeing a Titan appear is almost guaranteed at some point. Depending on which version you read, Prometheus very much can be seen as a figure who held love for humanity, and one that could very easily be skewed and corrupted. What follows is a brief summarization of the Prometheus tale. Prometheus sides with the Olympian gods in the Titanomachia, or War of the Titans, and played a key role in securing an Olympian victory. However, after this was done, Zeus planned to destroy humanity to replace it with something new. In retaliation to this, Prometheus stole the secrets of making fire from the gods and taught it along with the arts to humanity. Enraged at this, Zeus punished Prometheus by binding him to a mountain where an eagle would come by every single day and rip out his liver. As he is immortal, the liver would grow back so that the cycle may continue for eternity. He would, however, be eventually freed from this torment by Heracles. Parts of this story differ depending on the storyteller. For example, in some, Prometheus is a trickster god who tests Zeus' omnipotence, exposing him for not being truly all-knowing, after which Zeus steals fire away from humanity, and Prometheus has to steal it back. The punishment usually tends to be the same. In the Greek tragedy Prometheus Bound, Zeus is painted to be a tyrant, and in the end, after Prometheus refuses to reveal the knowledge that he has, and after being unjustly tortured by Zeus, he's thrown into Tartarus. From this, we can make assumptions over what kind of beast he would be. Obviously, his role in literature is as an illuminator of knowledge. Regardless of whether this is done out of good intentions or out of spite for Zeus is completely irrelevant. Therefore, his skewing of something positive is to give too much knowledge to people. Ignorance is bliss and knowledge is suffering. Prometheus could strive to give humanity knowledge that they were not prepared for and technology that they aren't emotionally developed enough as a species to actually use. If you think that all of this is outlandish, log on to Twitter or any social media site, find any reputable science account like NASA and read the comment sections. You will immediately understand that human beings are not ready for something like mass communication. Now, what if Prometheus could force you to have telepathic communication with everyone at will? That makes for one hell of a beast while sticking with his original role as a gifter of knowledge. Before we move on to our final one, here are some honorable mentions. Atlas, another Greek titan and the one tasked with holding up the sky. The Watchers, a group of angels written about in the book of Enoch who became fallen angels. If I had to pick a singular one, it would most likely be Samayaza or Azazel. Aleister Crowley, the world's most evil power bottom who maybe summoned an interdimensional monstrosity responsible for all of today's current woes. Finally, the inventor Daedalus, the incredibly smart creator of the Labyrinth and the wings to fly as a man with. Our last beast is a character that already exists in Chaldea and is rather unassuming. There are a number of characters in current Chaldea who could very easily fit the mold of becoming a beast due to their legends and due to how they have been interpreted by Fate's writers. Characters like Merlin of both genders, Vritra, or for some reason I've seen Elizabeth Bathory, all have the potential to manifest as a beast, but they are not who I'm going to be talking about now.
ここが果ての果て。我が輩の死は金剛石よりもなお不滅でしょう。
William Shakespeare, as he is portrayed in Fate and with his mysterious history, is a perfect candidate for a beast. Shakespeare strives for one very particular thing in his manifestation, and that is to document and write all that he can before the end of his manifestation. He exists to entertain. Despite that, the powers that Shakespeare holds in Fate are among the least fleshed out and the most terrifying at the same time. We know that he is capable of creating characters from his works to come to life and attack, as seen in the Epic of Remnant Part 1. We know that he can create a reality marble that traps someone within it and shows them what they are most afraid of. And finally, we know that he has a tendency to strive for a tragic ending. These latter two both seen in Apocrypha. Shakespeare's desire to create a compelling story goes hand in hand with what he enjoys the most: attention from the masses. To quote the play As You Like It, all of the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his act being 7 ages. Interpreted in a different way, this can be viewed as Shakespeare believing the world to truly be a stage and himself, being a playwright, must give the actors present some direction. To be a beast means to love humanity to the extremes, and so pouring all of your love into creating a perfect performance for all of humanity to see is right up Old Bill's alley. To further this point, if we truly want to get wild with theories, some historians do not even agree as to who Shakespeare was. That sounds like an absolutely insane statement, so bear with me. For the most part, it is accepted that Shakespeare was one person, William Shakespeare. However, there is some evidence to suggest that he was actually 3 different people using the moniker of Shakespeare and broken up into 3 different parts of his life. There was the Shakespeare who wrote the sonnets to the woman in black, the Shakespeare who wrote the sonnets to the beautiful boy, and I shit you not, that is what the style of sonnet is called. Finally, there's Shakespeare the playwright. Even among that final one, it is speculated that Shakespeare was the pen name for a group of playwrights, rather than one man himself. What this does is sow the seeds of doubt and potentially leads to the idea that Shakespeare was more than simply just a man and a playwright, but rather an idea or a concept capable of possessing others. Shakespeare very well could be a spirit of inspiration that could lead to deadly results, like his very own Ariel gone rogue with a bend towards spreading an unintentional madness. For all of this, it is well within fate's capability to make Shakespeare not just any mysterious enemy, but a proper beast of humanity who wants to toy with humans to create his own perfect show. One that has one hell of a tragic finale. Just as a side note, that Shakespeare being a several people thing is a very, very fringe theory, born out of a lack of personal information that exists about Old Bill. Most scholars do not regard it as anything more than a fringe theory, but it is fun to think about regardless. For now, those are my candidates for potential future beasts of humanity. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know who you think could be a beast down in the comments. Subscribe to catch these as they go up, do all the YouTube stuff, check the description for my links to the Discord, Twitch, and Twitter. But for now, guys, keep your chin up. Peace.